WWE produced a 24 documentary on Edge called Edge, the Second Mountain. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this special. It's critically acclaimed, and I'm looking forward to watching it. So we start off with Edge explaining that the documentary was originally intended to be a life after wrestling documentary, almost a Where Are They Now type of documentary. However, things turned and it became a documentary about Edge's return to the wrestling ring, in which he would return at the 2020 Royal Rumble in Houston. I like how we get to the title card. It shows Edge behind a curtain right before he walks out to enter the Royal Rumble match, and it goes to WWE 24 Edge, the Second Mountain. Really great opening. Now we're going to WrestleMania 27. Back in 2011 when Edge had his last match against Alberto Del Rio for the World Heavyweight Championship in the opening match of the show. This was when they started to do the world title in the opening match. I just thought that was a joke. It was so stupid to do that. I didn't understand why they did it at that time. So Jay, who is Christian, he noticed something was up with Edge, and he said Edge was keeping everything very close to the vest. He just wanted to get through WrestleMania that year. He had a big match. And eventually, he has the match with Del Rio. He wins. Just a surprise. I was picking Del Rio to win. I think most people assumed Del Rio would win that match, but Edge retained. And then, I believe it was 8 days later, is when he announced his retirement on April 11th of 2011 on Monday Night Raw. So I still remember watching that in 2011, and man, that was very sad. The guy was really, it seemed like he was really devastated his career was over. Everyone knows how much Edge loved wrestling, so seeing him retire was really sad. And here's one of those cases in which I thought he can't come back with this. If this guy takes a bump again, he's going to be paralyzed. So I never really thought of him ever coming back because of how easily, when it's a neck injury, I mean, he can easily be paralyzed. That's what I thought. So I assumed he'd never come back. So at the time when he moves into acting for a while, and he does quite a lot of work actually. His most highest. Well, actually, first he had Haven, that was on a TV show following SmackDown. I remember they used to always promote it. And, no offense to Edge, no one really watch it. But then he went into Vikings, and Vikings was a pretty high-profile TV show. It was well-known. A lot of people watched it. And if you watch him there, he takes an ass-kicking. He fights, though. I mean, he's taking shots, and it's not necessarily working a wrestling match, but it's a lot of punishment. And I don't think he has a stunt double. He's doing all the work. And at the time, he never really thinks about wrestling much because I think he has let it go. He moved on from it. Now, he starts to get into this. I think the one thing that brought him back into wrestling and made him think about it again was losing Best father and his mother, who I think they died in the span of 2 months, which was really devastating. Next, he goes to Toronto for SummerSlam weekend, and this is where things start to turn. I believe he gives, I think it's Elias a spear on the show. There's a cool moment where Edge and Christian are at, I think they're in SummerSlam weekend in Toronto, and they have a box, and this is a box Edge has from his mother who recently passed, and she kept a whole bunch of his drawings in there, and that's really, really a nice moment. I still remember watching the SummerSlam pre-show last year, and he gives Elias the spear, and I was shocked, because I thought he was just going to come on and embarrass him in the segment. I didn't think he'd be physical at all because of his neck injury, but he actually speared Elias. That surprised me. I think, oh, something's up. So Edge, he gets into AEW next. He doesn't mention it by name, but he says, and what happens is after SummerSlam, AEW contacts him and says that they're interested. And I'm not sure if AEW is really targeting Edge or if they were just sending out feelers to all the top stars in the industry that are not signed by the WWE. And of course, Edge is one of them. He's not, even though he's retired, he just did have physical action at SummerSlam. So they ask Edge, they're interested. Edge, before he sees the offer, he has to talk to Vince McMahon. And he goes to Vince, and this is, of course, where he comes back. Next, he goes to Vince, and Vince says you have to get checked up, and he goes to the WWE doctor, which is Joseph Maroon in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He's also the head doctor of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he clears Edge. So Edge basically has to lie on his Twitter account. He keeps denying the reports that he's coming back, even though he is. Next, in the documentary, we see him in the ring getting ready to wrestle. I think in a warehouse that he set up by himself. He probably owns the warehouse and he set up everything by himself. So he continues to get in the ring, and that's where he really works with his wife Beth. And they, you can see them training together. You can sort of see that it's limited. Beth is obviously a wrestler, and she was a very good female wrestler in the WWE. Even though they didn't really let her have great matches because the women were still the divas back when it was all bra and panties and stuff like that. Still, or they weren't necessarily having those matches. It was just still mostly model wrestling and all sex appeal. So she was a good wrestler, but she never really got to show it. We see him training with her a bit, and she's with NXT now, and you can sort of see that it's limited. He even said, she can't body slam him, so eventually he's going to bring in people who he can work with. Now we see him more at home with his kids, and of course the two of them in their schedules. Of course they have busy schedules, they still have to be parents. We're talking about that. We continue to see Edge working out, getting in good shape. He's even doing neck exercises. I guess what he thinks is that if you get, he's been told by doctors, if you continue to strengthen muscles in your neck, it can prevent against concussions because that prevents a whiplash, stuff like that. So he's working out very hard. He's really committed to it, coming back at full strength. I don't know what's going to happen now because of the coronavirus stuff, because he still lives in North Carolina. He doesn't live in Canada, but he lives in North Carolina. His wife and his kids, they all live there. And I guess isn't too bad for Beth because Orlando and I don't know where in North Carolina I live. I don't think that's the farthest, not that far. So with her and him, WWE, the performance centers in Orlando, it's not extremely hard, extremely difficult to travel, but at the same time, at his age, he has kids. We'll see what he really wants to do still, but we continue to see him getting ready. And when he's working with Beth, that's when it really dawns on him that he needs to bring in people who are working right now, and I think that's what leads to Revival coming in. And it's Dash Wilder. I don't know if Dawson's going to come, but he's going to work with Dash Wilder, and he's going to help Edge get trained. As Beth was saying, he's a 6'4" guy, 235 pounds. It's hard to really work with him, and Wilder's definitely going to help him get more prepared for wrestling and coming back to the WWE. So eventually, we hear more about Edge and Dash Wilder, how they knew each other. They go way back to Nashville, Tennessee, and how much Edge knew him. And Edge Edge and him would talk, and Edge got him a spot with the WWE. He got him a tryout. I'm not sure when exactly he was signed. I don't know when, but eventually they put him with Dawson, became the Revival. He one of the best teams in NXT, and they were horribly misused on the main roster. So we go to now Beth. She talks to Adam's mother who passed away, Judy, and she tells Beth to. She asks him before she passes to continue to look out for Adam, and that's where it became really hard for her to want to let Edge wrestle again. Of course, it's she made a promise to his mother, so that was a big. It's a tough pillow to swallow if something does happen to Edge. There's a tremendous amount of guilt. So next, Edge gets the Royal Rumble at Houston, Texas. What happens is it's basically they do this protocol. Whenever there's a big surprise, they immediately take you behind the back. They put you in the hood, and no one can see you until you come out. They did the same thing with I think it was Ronda Rousey a couple of years ago with that Rumble in 2018. So this is their protocol. And Edge, no one can see him, even though most people assumed he'd be there. No, they still have to keep it a surprise. So we see him getting ready at the Royal Rumble, getting ready to come back. He's very excited. He's emotional. I think it's kind of cool seeing some of the younger wrestlers marking out, saying how cool it is to be in the ring with Edge. I never thought that would happen. Guys who were fans of him, like Aleister Black and Kevin Owens, that was cool. And of course, we get to the Rumble, and he makes his big return. He comes back. We see his entrance. They show Beth Phoenix very emotional in the back. He heads to the ring. This was a great return. So this is a really cool moment with Edge at the Rumble, but one thing people forget, they did this in this documentary. They got the spear from Edge giving to Dolph Ziggler. On the live feed when I first watched it, Kevin Dunn, who's ever controlling the cameras, was Kevin Dunn, he's an idiot, he immediately pans to the crowd. I think what happened is once, after the Undertaker streak ended at WrestleMania 30, when Brock pins him, they immediately show the fans, they see the shocked face. They're obsessed with getting those reactions because that went viral. Now they want every single time something crazy happens or something eventful happens, they pan to the crowd to show the reactions. And they're so obsessed with seeing the reactions. A lot of people are going crazy. It was such an awesome moment seeing Edge come back. He misses Edge's first spear coming back when he gave to Dolph Ziggler, but we get it on this documentary. That's good. They show Edge and Gorilla after the Rumble. He's hugging a lot of the wrestlers, a lot of them were props, Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens, practically all the guys in the match. And of course he hugs Vince and he embraces him. So there's a funny moment. Christian, everyone, if you listen to their podcast, which I did, Christian has a reputation of just being a dick. No, he's not really a dick in real life, but he kind of makes jokes, just being a dick, bust your balls of it. So Edge asked him, how did I do? And Edge told him, and Christian says, you sucked. And of course, he's joking and he's keeping, playing the gimmick, being a dick. I thought that was actually a pretty funny moment. I have to rant about this a little bit. I don't mean to, but okay, they're doing these reaction videos at the Royal Rumble. Okay, people just do, they know they're happy to see Edge and all, but they make those shocked faces just to get seen on video by WWE. It's so obvious. They do it all the time. They're shocked, but they're completely over the top. They make those crazy reactions in order, just crazy faces in order just to get promoted by WWE or seen on some video of reactions of Royal Rumble. It's just fake. I mean, it is. But I'm sure they're really cool, but the reactions, it's a work. It's a gimmick. They want to get noticed. He talks about the second mountain. What that means is he read the book and he talks about the first mountain was about himself. The second mountain's more about other people and spreading it around. And Beth mentions how his mother's death really impacted him. It almost brought him back, just made him remember who he was. So overall, I thought this was a very good documentary, very good episode of 24. Really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I thought Edge was great here, very likable. I think him and Beth are a great couple. I like Beth a lot here, and I thought his whole story was great. I like how it kind of comes out of nowhere. It's not necessarily planned for years. He just thinks what if, and within 3 months he's back. He trains, of course, heavily, works so hard, and he's back. I think it's a really great moment. Of course, he's back in the WWE right now. We'll see what he's going to do now. I don't know what this whole coronavirus is going to happen. Who knows when he's going to wrestle next. I don't think what you saw at WrestleMania with Randy Orton's last match, that'd be a horrible way to go. I'm sorry, I don't mean to go ahead and start now, but I'm sure they'd wish they had that match back, but he's back. We'll see what's next for Edge, what's next from the WWE, and this 24 was fantastic, one of the best ones, and I highly recommend watching it, especially if you're a big Edge fan. This is a must-see.